Hi, Elle Ingalls here at pressure-free.com. And I'm going to be admitting some people into my Zoom room while we get started here this morning on a deep dive on something that I think is a really important subject. And this subject is, Lori, this is so weird too. I don't know why I can't seem to have me be the speaker view, but it's like the other person. But maybe it is. I'm recording that way. Not really sure, but just in case.
Like that happened before. I just turned you to speaker view, and you're on speaker view.
Okay, we'll just run with it. So I'm not sure how it's showing up on Facebook, but we won't worry about it. If I'm the little face and you're the big face. So, yeah.
I would rather be the little face right now.
Yeah, so actually, just bear with me, everybody. I am just going to check and see how does this actually show up on Facebook, because it matters,
Did the other ones turn out? The other ones turned out right.
Let's see. I think we're good. Yes. Well, yesterday Judy was on the whole time.
Oh.
So yeah, I think we're okay. So as long as I'm the one speaking, we're going to be fine, Lori.
Okay.
So I'm so glad you're here. For anybody else coming in Zoom, I will let you in. I think Judy's about to come in. People who actually signed in for this. Ilona over in, or Drilona over in Albania has been joining us, which is amazing.
Yeah, I think I saw that yesterday.
Yeah. So we are live on Facebook too, for those of you joining. If you're watching this on the replay, I really want to bring it today on imposter syndrome, because I think it's something that a lot of people are suffering from, and so unnecessarily. It's something that people didn't even really talk about this till about 10 years ago or so. I don't even remember hearing that word around 15 years ago. So it's really something that it's a categorized label now that we're using to describe when we feel like a fraud, or we feel like we're not good enough for whatever it is we're doing in the moment. And it can be such a strong feeling that it can start to permeate your entire life. So you no longer feel like you're you at work or you at home, and you're just really a hot mess of stress all the time. So I've pulled up we're going to do 3 things today, just to be clear for you. What is this thing called imposter syndrome? And we'll dive deep into that. Then whose voice is it really talking in your head when it says you're not good enough, you can't do this, you're never going to be able to blah, blah, blah? Whose voice is in there? We're going to talk about that for a little bit. And then what's really behind imposter syndrome and how you can start to turn it around. So I did some research for this, and there's a really wonderful psychologist, Dr. Valery Young, who's put together 5 types of imposter syndrome. I've had all 5 of these in my life at one point or another. So I want to give you a little deep dive on them, and you can decide, maybe you see yourself in one of these 5, or maybe like me, you've seen yourself in all of these 5 at one point or another. So the first is the perfectionist. Perfectionist is going to take everything on because you need to get it done right. So it's really hard for you to delegate and give up things to other people. You're a hyper controller. And then if you miss the mark, God forbid you miss the mark, like you've worked really hard on something, and then when it comes time to deliver, you feel like you really didn't deliver. It's just pulls the rug right from underneath you. So that perfectionist is the first type. Second type, and it says superwoman, but I've coached a lot of men and boys, and this imposter syndrome is not a gender thing. I'm going to call that out right now, because I've seen article after article how it affects women. It usually just affects women. No, that's not true. I've seen it affect so many men as well. So it's not a gender thing. It happens to both genders. So I'm going to say super person here. So super person, with a super person, you'll try to cover up your insecurities. You're trying to do it all, but you're going to feel like you've got to cover up what you're not doing well. So that's a little thing that goes on. And you also feel like you haven't earned your position. deep inside you feel like there's a misstep, like you haven't really earned your position in whatever it is you're doing. So there's this underneath thing that doesn't feel very good. And on the exterior, you're like superwoman. You can get it all done, or super person. The next is the natural genius. The natural genius feels shame if something takes too long to master. And we've got Lori here. Lori, I thought about if you're willing to come out, like.
I'm hitting on all three so far.
I thought of you.
The imposter syndrome is like prevalent in my life since I was little, and starting the cello when I was 16, I literally said those words in my head. I'm a guitarist impostering the cello.
Oh my gosh! Right.
I mean, and I had to keep. I developed a mantra in the process of being a cellist to keep saying to myself, I'm in the becoming of a wonderful cellist. Or, I did that at a very early age to try to reverse that mindset.
Okay, so I got to hear Lori play last week, and I mean, I haven't heard you play like that. We played together for my son's wedding. I haven't been in the audience and heard you play in a long time. And I just want to say it was truly beautiful. Like the Corelli was truly beautiful. So this mantra, can you say it again? Because I think it'd be really empowering for people to have some kind of belief mantra on one of these things that you just feel like you'll never accomplish it. What was your mantra again?
That I'm in the becoming of a wonderful cellist.
That you're in the becoming of a wonderful cellist.
Yeah.
You have become a wonderful cellist.
Well, I'm not where I want to be yet.
Of course you're not. And that's because you're also the perfectionist, right?
Yes, right.
And I know that a lot of people who come and work with me grew up playing sports or playing music or in drama or theater. The performance of doing something where with our teachers, with everything, it's never perfect. It's never complete. We could be working on a piece by Mozart forever, forever, because it's endless in how we can craft and perfect. And so I think that builds into this imposter syndrome. And honestly, I hate those words. I'm just going to say it right now. I hate those words because honestly, we can let go of that. We can let go of it. And I'll get into that after I finish the other two types here, okay? Because then there's the soloist. The soloist is going to silo themselves, do everything themselves, because no one can do it as good as they can. But then, God, again, it's kind of like the perfectionist. God forbid we make a mistake or something doesn't, it falls through the cracks. And I feel this one a lot sometimes, but it's also how we were indoctrinated in our schooling that most of our early schooling, there's not much project-based work. We're on our own. And you're not supposed to work with someone else. That's cheating, right? That's not the real world. I have to say, it's like one of my favorite actors because he reminds me of an aspect of my father, is Rodney Dangerfield.
Oh, yeah.
My father could be hilariously funny. The big jokester. He used to have this fake French accent he'd pull out. Like he was just very funny. And he'd like bug his eyes out like Rodney Dangerfield. But Rodney Dangerfield did a movie Back to School many years ago. And he went back to school with his college age kid in the movie. And of course, he's this mega millionaire, owns this company, CEO. So he just delegates everything out. He delegates his entire homework to the best minds he can find, right? I'm telling you, I think it's such a great lesson. If you're going to be a CEO, if you're going to be in the driver's seat, you've got to delegate. But if you're the soloist, you take everything on yourself, then life can feel like a house of cards. I had a client tell me this, that had built a beautiful life. And she goes, but I feel like it's a house of cards. And it just takes one little wind and this whole thing I've built is going to come crashing down.
It's like
And
pushing the cart uphill. Like pushing the
yes,
cart uphill constantly. And if you let go for any moment, it's coming all the way back down.
that's right. So the soloist is completely responsible. Completely responsible. Hi, Kitty. The last is the expert.
Ugh.
So the expert is going to fear that people find out that they're not really the expert. That's the imposter part of it. The expert tends to be a know-it-all. I usually call out, in fact, I think I did this with my certification class. It's like, we need to let go of being the know-it-alls, because you're going to come into a room and you're going to learn something from a guest or someone coming in, and you may not agree with them, or you may have a lot of judgment, and that needs to be suspended for learning. And so a lot of times the expert has missed out on some really great deep learning, because they have that know-it-all syndrome is another whole syndrome.
Yeah.
I have a really good friend of mine. She has 2 degrees from MIT, just like this incredibly brilliant person. And when she starts a seminar, she goes, okay, know that all of you in the room are know-it-alls, because I'm one and I attract them. So it's kind of fun to call it out. And that's, so these are the 5 types. I'll go over them again. So perfectionists, gotta have it perfect. You take on a lot. Superwoman, super person. You're doing all these things and you cover up your insecurities with it. Natural genius, you'll feel shame if it takes you longer than you think to master something. And you'll avoid certain things just so that you don't have to fail. You'll also avoid. And then the soloist, all there, all alone, just building that house of cards. And last, the expert. You really fear that people are going to find out that you don't know it all. And that's very, very frightening to you. So those are the 5 types, according to Dr. Valery Young. She wrote her book on this in 2011, if you want to look it up. So that's what it is. That's what it is. Now I want to talk about, usually all of this imposter syndrome thing is happening in here. Would you agree? Like, it's happening in here. So what's really happening in here? Like, what's really going on? And whose voice is talking to you? I worked with an amazing coach, he's not a doctor, Robert G. Allen. He's a best-selling author. And with Robert, what I did is I spent 3 weeks analyzing the voices in my head. So I had the nice voice just kind of keep me going, because I kind of love my kick-ass life. Like, I really love life. I've loved life since I was a tiny girl, but I still have a lot of this, okay? So I really love life. And there's that cheerleader voice going on in my head. And then there's the command form you. Don't forget, you need to do this. Don't forget, you should get that done today. Don't forget. For some reason, it usually starts with a don't forget. Like, I might forget something really important, and then that house of cards is going to fall. So it's a very insistent command form you. It's using the pronoun you, not I, but you. And the third voice is really hypercritical. And this voice will say, they'll never understand you. They're never going to hire you. What makes you think you can do this? This is never going to work. Like, it's using never. It's using superlatives a lot. You always screw up. You always screw up something. Like, like there's always going to be this one little crack that I'm going to fall down through. And it's really hypercritical. Sometimes brings me to my knees kind of voice, if you know what I mean. Like, it's just so insistent and so nasty. So I call that my nasty critical voice. But you know what? It's not my voice, because it uses the pronoun you. Just recently, I was working with a client who uses I most of the time, which I think is interesting. But most of the people I work with, it's you. Someone's talking at us. So you could be hearing one of your parents' voices, or one of your guardian's voices, or an uncle's voice, an aunt's voice. You could be hearing your most beloved teacher's voice telling you, you don't have it done yet. You've got to go deeper. You've got to work harder. You should have played a B natural. Like, insistent voices in there. We've got a lot of voices in our head. We've stored a lot of information in our lifetime. And there's a lot of different voices that can come through. So ask yourself, when the voice starts to talk, whose voice is that? And I smile a little bit so I don't cry. It's like, okay, whose voice is that? Whose voice is that? We are not our best friends. And many of the thoughts we have are not our friends. So what if the thoughts in your head could start to turn around? What if you could start to turn that around a little bit? There's so much that I do in the pressure-free method that's about exactly this. Because a lot of the talk in there is not very supportive, and it's not really getting us towards solution. There's a lot of blaming, there's a lot of shaming, a lot of complaining, even about our own selves, right? And so when you can really start to notice your voice, and by the way, I was so grateful to Robert Allen. He said, if you have a lot of different voices in there, don't worry, you're not crazy. It's totally natural to have different voices in your head. And I was so glad he said that, because 3 weeks of analyzing mine, I was like, oh my goodness, like, what's going on in here? So cut yourself a break. It's really okay. And that's why it's great to have a coach working with you so that you can untangle some of those voices, because some of them are very deep-seated. And now let's dive into what's really behind imposter syndrome. And I always boil it down to the fact that you would have far less of these feelings and of these voices if you didn't trigger the fight or flight stress response. That is really the culprit for your mind going from an I voice to a you voice. Because when you go into fight or flight, you shut down your outer cortex and your hippocampus, like all your thinking and logical work gets somewhat suppressed. So you're in your fear-based voice. And when you're in your fear-based voice, that's when those you voices come out. You better run with me. You better come into the cave and get safe. The you voice, I've never coached this before. This is like huge, but it's true. When I think about myself, the you voice doesn't come in very often unless I'm feeling angry or annoyed, anxious or afraid or ashamed. Certainly, when you look at that, which one was it here? The shame one, the feeling of shame. The natural genius will feel a lot of shame if they're not cutting it. It's like, yeah, oh yeah. And then it's the you voice. Well, if you'd done it this way, this wouldn't happen. And I think there's another thing in that. I want to go back to the voice just for a moment, because the voice, the most insidious voice is, if they only knew what you can't do, you'd probably be fired, or they'd take you off that project. If they only knew the real you. And I'm here to claim right now for you, that is not the real you. Your mess of stress you is not your real you. It's you under the influence of stress hormones. It's not the real you. We act totally differently and we think differently when we're under the influence of stress hormones. When we can start to clean that up, the voices in your head are going to start to turn around a little bit. And your body's going to feel differently. So my clients who feel imposter syndrome, they're like, my stomach always hurts. Like my stomach just feels like it's just either that dread feeling, that pit in the stomach dread feeling, or they feel nauseous, or they have to go to the bathroom a lot. Like the digestive system is wrecked. It's not working well. Then other clients of mine will say, my head is just pounding. I have migraines so often. I have to take time off from work a lot because of my headaches. It's very head centered. And those tend to be also, maybe this is you, like you also grind your teeth. You got a lot of tension up in here. And then other clients of mine, it's chest centered. So they can feel their heart just beating out of their chest. And and their throat feels like it's closing. This whole thing here is very tense and tight. And you're walking around all day trying to do your work, feeling like that. So no wonder you feel like an imposter, because on the outside, you have to look like you've got it all together. but on the inside, everything is hurting. And I can only say all this because I've felt it. Like, just that running yourself into the ground, like you're almost destroying yourself from the inside out, but the out still has the facade. So what if the outside and the inside could match? And you feel, I use the word congruent, or you might pronounce it congruent. I don't know why I call it congruent. That could be completely wrong. But for me, the con is important. I don't know why. But this idea that the inside and the outside are matching, you're no longer a hot mess of stress. You're okay when you fail. It's okay when you make a mistake. I saw a headline. I catch headlines on my newsfeed, and one yesterday brought tears to my eyes because I brought my youngest son out on camera yesterday. And this one was that a woman, it was like something about TikTok agreeing with a mother who said she hates her son. I just couldn't even believe my eyes reading it. And I couldn't read the article, to be honest. Like, I just teared up. I'm like, wow. So where is the unconditional love in this world right now? One of the things I super stand for is unconditional love, because there's not enough of it. And I've had clients who have felt like nobody sees them, hears them, or gets them. They feel so siloed, so alone. They're soloists. They feel so alone. And I'm like, if everything fell apart and your house of cards fell apart, you can come live with me. I don't know. I just give them some sort of hope, because it's like, oh my goodness, that someone can feel that alone is just really, really, really sad to me. And that someone could actually hate the child they brought into the world. And I remember, here's what my mother used to say: I may not like what you do, but I will always love you. I may not like what you do, but I will always love you. So how can that, knowing that somebody cares, I don't care if you're meeting me for the first time here, but knowing that somebody cares, that's a layer of foundation for you. We need those. We need to know that there's another human in the world that cares. I was at a college the other day, and a student the week before had died from suicide. So the whole campus is rocked, of course. And here's what frightens me, actually, because I know the school where my son goes, Columbia in New York, it would be about 10 years ago now. There was one, and then there were 6 more. So I'm just praying right now, because I really know how things can fall through the cracks. And when we talk about imposter syndrome, students going to college, that's huge. So they get in. In fact, one of the Harvard admissions directors that I've talked to said, the happiest day is when they get admitted and then they come on campus. And now they're no longer the smartest kid in their class. And the first week, some of them realize they'll be lucky to get a C. If it's a bell curve, right? So you can feel like an imposter. My friend at MIT said there were 3 to 4 attempted suicides every month on her dorm floor. On her dorm floor. Okay? So MIT actually went to first year's pass-fail, because the grade thing was just too much for these students, which is sad. I think it's sad, because that means that they don't have emotional resilience. And that is the biggest thing missing. And we see it in the past couple of years with what has gone on, is that families don't have emotional resilience to deal with all the stuff that's been thrown at us. We weren't taught it. I didn't have it until 2010. You can just ask my family. I didn't have it. I thought I had my crap together. I thought, Lori's known me a long time. Like, I mean, I just didn't let anything stop me, right? It's like, we're going to build a music school. And here's what one person in town said. One of the most trusted leaders in the town said, if she can do that in that cow town, well, that's just impossible. Right? Well, we did it. So it's like, I know that you are a high achiever. If you're watching this, you want to create something. You want to make something happen. And so having the emotional resilience and getting rid of feeling like a fraud and feeling like it's, if you make a mistake, the whole house of cards isn't going to fall down. And sometimes we have to make really big decisions. And if you're in fight or flight trying to make that decision, it feels impossible. And here's another couple things that you will know that stress is what's really working on you. You'll have trouble envisioning the future. It's really hard to future pace when you're in fight or flight, when you're under the influence of those hormones. So you may have like catch a break and have a few moments where you're like, oh yeah, this is what I want to do. But then it's like the door closes and you're back and you're in your job and you're feeling like a fraud and you feel like you're going to be fired if they ever knew. I was reading a beautiful account by this young woman who was in her late 20s and had a position at this in Washington, D.C. And she got called into her boss's boss office, her boss's boss. And as she walked down the hallway, she was completely filled with stress and dread. She was just assuming she was going to be fired and that her own boss was too chicken to do it. And so her boss's boss was going to be doing it because she felt like such a fraud. She just felt like she was so not competent in her job. She walked in and she sat down, and this boss, you could never read his expression. He suddenly got a big smile and said, well, we want to offer you a new position. So sometimes when we're in fight or flight, we will completely misread the cues from other people. That's why I'm bringing this up. When you're in imposter syndrome, you may look at your boss and think, oh God, they think I'm doing a horrible job. They're not even thinking about you. They're in their own little world. But if you're in fight or flight, anything can feel like a threat. The copy machine not working can feel like a threat because you've got to get your report out. And you sent it from your office and something didn't work. All these little things can feel like a threat. But we will read miscues from our family members. You may think that your intimate partner thinks things about you, and they don't think them at all. But you've never had a clarifying conversation about it, never talked about it. And you're just misreading cues because of the state that you're in. Does that make sense? So sometimes we really are misreading others, and that escalates this imposter syndrome. Because now you're making, by the way, your imagination is amazing. It will trump your logic every time. So if you misread someone's cue to you, you will create a whole story, like that woman walking down the hall assuming she was going to be fired. You'll see the whole thing pan out. You're boxing up your things. You're walking out the door, like you'll see the whole thing. That's because our imaginations are so great at creating stories. Even if you don't think you're a fiction writer, you're a fiction writer in your own head. You do it all the time. So what if you could write the story the way you wanted it to go? What if you could start to turn that around a little bit? And that's what future pacing and dreaming and visioning is about. I can always tell if a client of mine has a lot of this imposter syndrome because I have tools about envisioning into the future, and they have trouble, they don't use them. They have trouble using them. They have trouble writing down their dreams and goals and visions every day. And they don't do it. And I know that deep inside it's because, and I'm going to get to my last point here. It's because, I don't want to cry. I keep crying on these things. It's because they feel they don't deserve it. And that is the truth. So one of my faith foundation deals is that I believe you deserve a beautiful life. I believe every human, no matter what their circumstances and what's going on, deserves to have a fulfilling life. That there's going to be something that they do within their lifetime that has some beauty to it, some magic to it, if you will. So if you've read the book, The Big Leap by Dr. Gay Hendricks, I highly recommend that book. Dr. Hendricks talks about something called the upper limit problem. I refer to these as glass ceilings, especially when I'm coaching women, because a lot of women feel the glass ceilings. So these glass ceilings can be on any area of your life. And if you have imposter syndrome, you're constantly bumping up against them. There's a limit to what you think you deserve. There's a limit to what you think you're capable of because of these feelings of doubt, even though you may have a lot of degrees after your name. You've done a lot of great things in your life. You'll hit these glass ceilings. And so why do we have these glass ceilings? It starts when you're little. So when you were little and you couldn't move yet, just a baby, you got fed, loved, and changed enough to be here today, so we will be grateful for that. But then you became mobile and you started to reach for things. And when you start to reach for things that people don't want you to touch, or maybe you might get hurt, you get a message, and the message could be a gentle pull away. No, baby, you can't touch that. It's going to hurt you. Maybe you're trying to touch the hot stove or whatever. No, baby. Or maybe it was a grab and a slap and a yell. It doesn't matter where it fell on the continuum. Could be gentle or harsh. We all got the same message. You can't have that. I want to call something out for a moment here, because if you are a parent and you have imposter syndrome, you're probably telling your children all the time that they can't have things. They're reaching for stuff and you're just, no, not today. Don't have time for that. You're in too much of a hurry. And we got a lot of people who then become adults and they start to reach for things. And what's the message in their head? You can't have that. No, baby, you can't have that. So that message is pretty much universal all around the world. And if you can break through that, so much becomes possible. And then you're going to hit the next one, because you break through one ceiling, it's like, ooh, here's the next one, right? So you're going to keep having challenges happen, and stressors happen, and feelings happen. But if you can start, and I have all these little tools in my toolkit to help you start breaking through those little glass ceilings. And the one I want to share today that I think is so important is double yellow line. So when you look at your day and you look at what you're working on and you set little double yellow lines around all the things in your agenda, that means you can't pass. If you're driving down the road and there's a double yellow line, you can't pass. You got to stay in your lane. Because one of the things that imposter syndrome causes all the time is negative, fake worry, the story worry. So if you can see that you're starting to worry about something in the future, pull back, be present. You can pray positively for whatever that thing is. You could, if you don't have control over it, you could do some positive preparation for it if it is something you do have control over. Or you can simply pull back and say, no, right now I'm working on this. I'm going to finish this because I'm here right now. So double yellow line is a really great way to start to become more present in the moment. And you're not moving into that negative fake worry where your snowballing is going to start. And then you get to that event and none of that happens, or happens completely differently, because we don't know what's going to transpire. We don't know, like Lori and I, we're musicians, you don't know who's not going to come in. You can't predict what's going to happen. It's the unknown that causes so much of our angst and worry. So see if you can double yellow line the things in your day, even your personal events, so you're more present with the people you love. So they actually feel that you're there instead of you worrying about tomorrow's meeting, but you're actually there. So double yellow line's a great little tool that you can start to use. And wow, there was one more thing I wanted to share. Oh yeah. I looked up, like, what is the definition of imposter syndrome? There's another word for it: perceived fraudulence. Perceived fraudulence. So our perception is that we're not matching inside and outside. I think that's really interesting. Again, the head is where this is all going on. And of course, self-doubt. Most of us feel this pressure to work harder so that people think we're doing what we're supposed to be doing. And that has been something I think that the myths on this are being dispelled in this century for sure. But for most of our past century, we were paid by our time, an hour of time, and what could get done, making widgets or in the mills, whatever it was. And when we're using so much more of our brains and information, I was like, I got to a point where I was like, I'm never getting paid for how many hours I work ever again. Because what I can get done in an hour is like unbelievable. And I watched it happen over time. Like, okay, this just works really efficiently, especially when I'm not under stress hormones, like really efficiently. So why would I get paid per hour when I could get paid by doing a project? And this is what the project is. So especially when you're working on things that take brain power to create solutions, to take brain power to create things, the hourly just doesn't really work very well. And we're all so different in what hours work well for us. So playing with these concepts of stop, and notice it's pressure to work harder. And I call my method the pressure-free method. And the reason I call it that is no matter what pressures you are feeling, you can stay free of triggering fight or flight. That is the key. So you're still going to feel anxious. You still might feel worried about something. But if you don't trigger the stress hormones, you can get to solutions so much faster because your brain can think and your body doesn't hurt and your stomach doesn't hurt and your throat isn't closed, because that's not life. If you're walking around with a stomach hurting, a throat closing, and headaches, that's not the life you were meant to live. It's not. And I'm here to claim it for you. So I remember when I started Pressure Free, my teenage son said to me, "So now, mother, whenever you perform, like you can't even feel afraid." And I looked at him and I go, no. You're missing the whole point. I could feel nervous, but I don't need to trigger the stress response. So I can see that I'm starting to feel a little nervous about something and relax my abs and use the double yellow line. I'm not on stage yet. I'm just backstage here with my friends. Okay, now I'm on stage. So I can use double yellow line and all these other tools. Sometimes for things I have to use like 5 tools for me to not trigger fight or flight because I'm feeling something. So you don't become like a Stepford person when you're pressure free. You still feel everything. You're just protecting yourself at the deepest level so you don't fry your adrenals. So you don't get labeled, "She's so hormonal." That's what someone shared with me lately. This is a really high-powered executive who gets this from her coach. "You're so hormonal." I'm like, oh, wow. Wow. What a label, huh? It's a terrible label. It's just a terrible label. Maybe you get it from the people you live with. What are those judgments? What are those pronouncements? And if you have any of this, if you're a perfectionist, a soloist, a genius, like all of these things that are imposter syndrome people, you will feel them twice as hard. You'll feel them twice as hard because you're trying to be so perfect. And then someone says, you're so hormonal. Oh my God. And when we get feedback like that, it can really cut to the core. It really can. You go in for your review. I've had 360 reviews, and usually my reviews are pretty decent, but I'll never, here, you hang on to the one bad thing, right? Somebody said, she's overly friendly.
Oh, gosh.
Overly friendly. Judy's laughing at that one.
Yes, I am.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so how many of you are too much for people sometimes? People can't handle us because we're too much, right? So yeah, so it hurt me though. And then I was like, oh, do I have to back off? Does this happen to you? Like you get a criticism and you're like, oh, maybe I need to change. Maybe I need to shift. Maybe there's some truth to it, but it's like, I actually said, you know what? No, I can't do it. It's who I am. It's who I am. That's a deep part of me, is that I like people. I care about them. And sometimes we're going to get bad reviews. I had a speaking engagement where I was rated a 5 out of 5 with 55 Microsoft leaders. Like that's pretty darn cool, right? Like I was feeling great. Then I go into my next one and I'm right on the bell curve. Like half the people liked me, half the people didn't. And a few people actually really hated it. So then it's like, oh my God, what's wrong with me? We go into these things. It's like sometimes we've got to put the stake in the ground and be okay with being who we are, be okay with not touching everyone. We can't be everything to everybody. None of us are meant for that. Maybe the Pope, I don't know, but he has a lot of critics. So we are, as leaders in particular, and I want to, because most of the people who I work with, they're leading something, whether it's they're on a board, they're over here leading their business, they're a leader in their company. And so when you are a leader, it can be vulnerable because people will criticize you and will be talking about you behind your back because you're putting yourself out there to lead. And I remember in conducting seminar, the first seminar, our professor, Gustav Meyer, would say, if you want to be liked, there's the door. Because as a conductor, there's going to be members in that orchestra who positively hate the way you conduct, and there's nothing you can do about it. And there's going to be some people who absolutely love how you conduct. Right? And most musicians are pretty picky, so they're going to choose and have their thoughts, right, Lori? I think it's so real. It's so real. So if you're leading, you really need to learn how to overcome this fight or flight stress response, or it can take you out. And the beginning of the book I'm writing right now is called The Pressure-Free CEO. That's my working title. And I start out with the introduction of sharing all of the great brains we have lost due to chronic disease, even though these CEOs, you can think Steve Jobs, the CEO of McDonald's, you can just go down the list, males and females in high-powered positions who we lost young, even though they had access to the best healthcare in the world, alternative and traditional, even though it was all paid for by their companies. And we lost them because of stress. I think that's wrong, and I think it's bad. And I lost my own parents to stress-based diseases. And so I'm on a mission to help you. I'm on a mission to make sure your inside and your outside matches, and you don't walk around in fear and self-doubt with that hypercritical voice running you all day, and in pain, your stomach, your chest, your head. So you can start to feel good and you can start to feel real. Some of my clients say, you help me find my real self, my true self. the one that was hidden under all these masks and under all the stress. That's the real you. And that person is beautiful. That person is loving, caring. That person is connected. They don't silo. They don't have to silo because they're not afraid anymore. So I'm totally here for you. I've opened some spots on my calendar if you want to go to speakwithelle.com if you're not already working with me. We have Judy and Lori here who are already working with me. They're in my high level program. So reach out. I'm here for you. You don't need to be alone anymore. There are like-minded people that we're building in our communities in Pressure Free, and I'm about to launch some even bigger ones. So it's here for you. And to get out of imposter syndrome, to get out of these 5 very not healthy ways of being can totally change your life and help you start to move into something that just feels like the real you. So I'll let you have a beautiful pressure-free day today. And let's see, I'm gonna kick off here. Have a great pressure-free day. I will see you tomorrow and we'll go another deep dive tomorrow. And we'll be on day 4 tomorrow.